Have you noticed how the harder you try, the more resistance seems to appear, as if life stiffens the moment you push? This is not punishment. It is instruction. There is a higher way of winning, one that begins the moment effort gives way to trust. Many believe success is earned through strain, vigilance, and constant proving. Yet those who appear to move smoothly through life are not working harder. They are working with something unseen. They have learned the art of alignment, where results follow naturally instead of being chased. You were never meant to exhaust yourself to deserve good. Struggle is not a requirement for reward. When effort becomes frantic, it signals fear has taken the lead. And fear, no matter how disciplined, cannot produce lasting victory. Think of how often you brace yourself for outcomes, rehearsing problems before they arrive. That inner tension is effort misdirected. Life does not respond to pressure, it responds to clarity. When clarity is present, obstacles rearrange without conflict. The game of life is not won by force, but by understanding its rules. One of those rules is simple. What you push against pushes back. What you trust moves forward. Ease is not laziness, it is intelligence aligned with order. There is a reason moments of grace arrive when you stop trying to control everything. Suddenly, solutions appear, timing improves, people cooperate. These are not accidents. They are signs that resistance has stepped aside. Effortlessness does not mean inaction. It means inspired action, movement, guided by certainty rather than fear. When you move from that place, you are supported by momentum greater than your own strength. You may have been taught that letting go means losing control. In truth, letting go is how control is transferred to something wiser. The moment you release the need to manage every detail, life begins managing them better than you ever could. Notice how the greatest breakthroughs often arrive after surrender. When the mind stops wrestling, the path reveals itself. This is not coincidence. It is the natural response to alignment restored. Trying harder is often the signal that something is being done out of order. The inner command must come first. When the inner state is settled, the outer action becomes effective without strain. There is a quiet authority that comes from knowing things will work out without forcing them. That authority changes how you speak, how you decide, how you wait, and life responds differently to that tone. Many lose the game not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they exhaust themselves fighting currents meant to carry them. Winning begins the moment you stop swimming upstream. You are not required to prove your worth through struggle. Worth is established before effort ever begins. When you act from that knowing, effort transforms into flow. Observe how children learn best through play, not pressure. Life follows the same principle. Joy accelerates outcomes, tension delays them. Ease is the natural environment of success. When you trust the unseen to handle what you cannot see, your energy becomes available for what you can do, and what you can do suddenly becomes enough. There is a rhythm to life that cannot be rushed, only respected. When you honor it, things happen at the right time without force. Missed opportunities return in better form. Delays reveal their purpose. Effortless winning feels calm, not dramatic. It does not announce itself with struggle. It arrives quietly, leaving you wondering why things ever felt so hard before. The moment you stop insisting on outcomes and start expecting order, you shift positions in the game. You move from player to partner, and partnership always outperforms force. You were never meant to win by exhaustion. You were meant to win by understanding. When you release the need to try so hard, you discover how much has been working in your favor all along. Stay here. There is a different way to move through life, and once you see it, effort will never look the same again. My friend, I must begin by telling you something that may feel almost shocking to the part of you that has labored for years. Life is not won by the one who struggles most. The world has taught you that all good must be earned by strain, that success must be chased, that every blessing must be pried open by force. Yet the great truth is the opposite. The moment you find yourself exhausted, tense, pushing with all your might, you may be certain that you are not moving by divine law but have wandered into the territory of fear. For fear always commands effort, and effort born of fear cannot produce lasting success. It is like a man rowing a small boat frantically against the tide, believing that his destination depends entirely upon his strength, never realizing that the tide itself was meant to carry him if he would only let it. I remember a woman who came to me breathless from her own striving. She hurried everywhere, hurried her speech, hurried her meals, hurried her prayers. She told me that the world seemed to rush past her no matter how hard she pushed to keep up. I said to her, "Nothing will ever go right until you cease this strained effort, for you are trying to do everything yourself. Turn it over to God." She began each morning with the simple decree, "I do my perfect work in a perfect way, and all doors open to me under grace." Her life softened. People treated her with greater kindness. Work that once demanded strain now flowed with ease. She discovered that the world had not been against her. It had merely been reflecting the tension she carried within herself. You see, the subconscious mind responds not to the outer action but to the tone beneath the action. A man may run swiftly, yet if his heart is filled with fear, life will arrange fearful results. Another may move slowly, but in perfect faith, and the whole world will hasten to meet his needs. When you act from tension, you send forth the decree, "This is difficult," and life obediently echoes your command. When you act from calm assurance, you declare, "This is handled," and the universe moves quietly to confirm your word. Let me give you a picture. Hold your hand tightly clenched. Notice how nothing can enter it while it remains in that state. Such is the consciousness of fear, closed, rigid, resisting. Now open the hand. At once, it becomes receptive. Supply may enter freely. The clenched hand symbolizes human will attempting to control every detail. The open hand symbolizes surrender to divine intelligence. One blocks the flow, the other invites it. I recall a man who desired a promotion at his place of business. He worked harder than all others, stayed later, accepted every extra assignment, yet he was continually passed over. He said to me, "Mrs. Shinn, I cannot understand why I am not recognized." I asked him, "Are you working in fear of being overlooked, or are you working with faith that your good cannot be withheld?" He admitted that every action he took was driven by dread. I instructed him to cease all strain and declare instead, "My perfect place is already prepared, and nothing can prevent me from reaching it." In a few weeks, the company reorganized, and he was placed in a far higher position than the one he had strained for. When he stopped trying to push his destiny open, it opened of its own accord. Many people greet the morning with anxiety. They open their eyes and immediately remember something unfinished, something uncertain, something feared. They do not realize that they have placed a watchman at the gate of their mind, who greets the day with a trumpet of worry, and the day obeys. I say to you, guard the first moments of your morning. Do not let fear give the command. Speak instead, "Divine order now takes charge of this day," and watch how quickly the wheels begin to turn in your favor. A calm beginning creates a harmonious sequence, for divine law responds to peace more swiftly than it responds to effort. Forced things are never right. If a door will not open easily, it is not your door. If a path demands strain, it is not your path. They believe that perseverance is noble, yet perseverance without intuition is merely stubbornness in disguise. When a thing belongs to you, it comes smoothly. When a thing does not belong to you, it fights you at every turn. Divine design is never revealed through struggle. It appears quietly when resistance ends. I once knew a woman who strained endlessly to win the affection of a man she admired. She adjusted her manner, altered her speech, tried to please him in all things. The more she tried, the more indifferent he became. Finally, exhausted, she came to me in despair. I said to her, "You are trying to make something happen through human will. Release it. Declare instead, 'I am irresistible to my good, for my good is irresistible to me.'" She obeyed. She stopped chasing. She stopped striving. She stopped bending her soul into uncomfortable shapes. And the moment she released the struggle, a man appeared who cherished her without persuasion. She realized then that the one she had tried to force into her life had only been a picture of her own insecurity. When she stood straight in truth, the right partner recognized her instantly. Now let me explain something vital. Ceasing to struggle does not mean ceasing to act. It means acting from a higher place. When the mind is calm, intuition speaks. It shows you the next step with perfect clarity. That step will not exhaust you. It will delight you. It will feel natural, smooth, inevitable. Right action is marked by ease, not effort. When you are guided, you do not push. You move as one carried by an unseen current. When you stop struggling, something wonderful happens. People treat you differently. They sense your composure. They feel your steadiness. They trust you. A person who is frantic repels assistance, for others feel the burden of that tension. But a person who moves in calm assurance radiates quiet authority. Doors open for such a one. Opportunities present themselves. Help arrives unbidden. This is not charm, it is consciousness. There was a woman once who could not sell her home. She advertised, pleaded, begged the real estate office to show it more often. Yet months passed without a single interested buyer. She came to me, discouraged. I asked her, "Are you trying to push the house off your hands?" She laughed through her tears and said, "It feels that way." I told her to bless the house, to see it as already sold, and to affirm daily, "Infinite Spirit now attracts the right buyer for this house." She obeyed. Within a few days, a family who had been searching for months saw her home and purchased it at once. The sale required no persuasion, no strain, no bargaining. When she released her grip, divine order took over. Perhaps you have been rowing hard against the tide of your own good. You have believed that if you try just a little harder, push just a little more, you will finally break through. Yet the truth is revealed the moment you put down the oars. The tide turns in your favor at once. You discover that the sea was not fighting you, you were fighting the sea. Let me give you an affirmation that has freed countless people. I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. When you feel tension tightening around a situation, speak these words. They lift the weight off your human shoulders and place it into divine hands. You will feel a release, perhaps small, perhaps profound, but the release itself is the signal that the work has begun on the unseen side. Peace is not the reward for solving your problems. Peace is the power that solves your problems. When you establish peace inwardly, conditions rearrange outwardly with astonishing speed. Harmony precedes demonstration. Calmness precedes victory. You cannot win through fear, you win through alignment. You may rest now in the knowledge that life is not asking you to push harder, it is asking you to stop interfering. You have been rowing with all your strength, believing that victory depends upon effort. But I tell you, put the oars down. Let the tide of divine order carry you. You will arrive sooner than you ever have by struggle. My friend, now that you have laid down the burden of strain, we may step into one of the most comforting truths in the whole game of life. You are not required to invent your good. You are only required to recognize it when it arrives. There exists for every soul a divine design, an orderly, perfect pattern of opportunities, companions, work, and supply. You do not create this pattern through personal will. It is established for you from the beginning. All you need is the inner stillness that allows it to come into view. When the mind is crowded with hurry, fear, and self-determined plans, divine design cannot be heard. But when you grow quiet, even for a moment, you begin to sense that something wiser than your fear is guiding the details. I often say that nothing truly yours can be withheld, and nothing not yours can be made to stay. This is the law. And yet how many people exhaust themselves trying to hold what is not meant for them, or chase what would have arrived on its own had they only released their grip? Divine design is never revealed through force. It is revealed through cooperation with the unseen. Imagine a great tapestry being woven behind the scenes, threads crossing and looping in patterns the human eye cannot yet perceive. If you tug too hard on one thread, you distort the entire pattern. But if you trust the weaver, you find that the picture unfolding is more beautiful than anything you could have sketched for yourself. There was once an artist who came to me in great distress. She said, "Mrs. Shinn, I cannot seem to find my place. I long to express beauty, but no one appreciates what I do." She had tried painting landscapes, portraits, even advertisements, yet nothing prospered. She was willing, she said, to paint anything if only she could succeed. I answered gently, "You will never prosper by scattering your gifts to please the world. Speak this word. My perfect self-expression comes to me in perfect ways. Allow divine design to reveal what you were made to do." She obeyed, though she admitted she had little faith in anything unseen. Yet a curious thing happened. A shopkeeper who had once admired her decorative sketches offered her a small commission to design a series of illustrated cards. The cards sold immediately, and soon she was asked to design more. Within a year, she had a flourishing business, creating the very style of art that had flowed naturally from her soul since childhood. Her perfect work had been waiting for her while she was trying to imitate everyone else. Divine timing is part of divine design. You may grow impatient when something you desire does not arrive at once, but delay is never denial when the desire itself is right. There is a precise hour for every demonstration, and if you receive it too soon, you may not be ready to keep it. If you receive it too late, fear might have already taken root. Divine timing arranges a moment that blesses you and all connected to you. Any earlier or later moment would not carry the same perfection. Think of Joseph in Scripture. Sold into slavery, imprisoned, forgotten. To the casual observer, his life appeared in ruins. Yet every seeming setback positioned him exactly where he needed to be when Pharaoh required an interpreter. In one day, he rose from prison to palace. Divine timing is often silent until the very moment it sings. A man once told me that he was desperate to secure a future. He tried investment after investment, all of which failed. The more he hurried, the more he lost. His face grew lined with anxiety. I said to him, "You are trying to outrun God. Stand still long enough for your good to overtake you." With reluctance, he stopped scheming. He blessed what he had and affirmed, "I am divinely guided. I wait with calm expectancy, and my good comes to me." In a short time, A trusted acquaintance brought him a modest opportunity, requiring almost no effort. That small opportunity expanded quietly until it surpassed the fortune he had attempted to seize by force. He discovered that his prosperity had been walking toward him while he was running in the opposite direction. Impatience is distrust wearing a clever disguise. Many say, "If I do not hasten matters, nothing will happen." But what has haste ever produced except confusion? Divine timing can never be rushed. It can only be obstructed by fear. When you insist that something must happen now, you attempt to wrest the pen from the hand of the divine author. Yet the author sees the entire plot while you see only one page. Why not allow the next page to unfold in order, rather than scribbling your own anxious lines upon it? There is a magic path of intuition that appears when you stop trying to manage the timetable. Intuition is the gentle nudge that says, "Go here," or "Wait," or "Speak now," without offering an explanation. When you trust it, you discover that the right moments are arranged for you with amazing accuracy. A woman once told me that she felt an inexplicable urge to take a different route home. She resisted at first, thinking it silly, but the impulse persisted. She followed it. On that unfamiliar street, she encountered an acquaintance who mentioned a job opening perfectly suited to her skills. Had she taken her usual path, she would never have heard of it. Intuition is not the voice of whim. It is the whisper of divine timing. The world responds differently to a person who trusts the timetable of heaven. Such a person is not hurried, though they may have much to do. They are not anxious, though they may hold great responsibility. Others sense that this individual stands beneath a higher order, and they instinctively defer to that calm authority. People cooperate with the one who moves in divine timing because they feel carried along rather than pushed. You cannot imagine how many complications dissolve when you cease creating them through your own impatience. Remember the affirmation, "What is mine cannot be taken from me. What is not mine cannot remain." Speak it when fear of loss or fear of delay troubles you. It is the great equalizer of the mind. It dissolves false desires and reinforces true ones. It places your feet back upon the magic path where your highest good awaits. Let me give you a final image. Picture a great train station. Trains come and go. People rush, clamor, and jostle. Yet your train has a precise schedule. No amount of pacing the platform will make it arrive sooner, and no amount of distraction will cause it to pass you by if you are calmly waiting in the right place. When your train pulls in, the doors open without effort, and you step aboard. Divine timing is just such a train. When you stop running from platform to platform and stand still in faith, you discover that your train finds you. Now you see that the game of life is not a race, but a rhythm. And when you enter that rhythm, you move in harmony with a wisdom that never makes mistakes. You stop trying to push things into place, and you begin allowing the perfect pattern to unfold. That is the joy of divine design. All that is truly yours comes in its appointed hour, and it comes without strain. My friend, if there is one law in the whole spiritual arsenal that most quickly brings relief to the weary soul, it is the law of non-resistance. Nothing in divine order requires you to fight for what is yours, nor to defend yourself against shadows that cannot touch you unless you give them power. Yet how often do people wear themselves thin by resisting conditions, arguing with appearances, struggling against people, and pushing against the very doors meant to open lightly under grace? Resistance is the great disorganizer, the dismantler of peace, the generator of every needless battle. And the moment you cease resisting, you will feel the atmosphere around your life shift as surely as the air changes before the dawn. Let me speak plainly. What you fight, you animate. What you fear, you magnetize. What you resent, you prolong. To resist a condition is to breathe life into it. It is as though you say to the universe, "This is important enough for me to push against," and life answers, "Then by your command, it remains." You cannot dissolve what you continually wrestle with. You dissolve it by stepping out of its vibration entirely and affirming, "There is nothing to oppose. All is working for my good." I once worked with a woman whose whole world seemed to be filled with trouble. She clashed with her neighbors, argued with her employer, quarreled with her own reflection in the mirror. Everywhere she went, she encountered resistance because she carried resistance within herself. She believed people were obstructing her progress, but the true obstruction was in her own heart. I told her gently, "Stop fighting shadows, bless them, and walk past." She was astonished by the suggestion. She said, "Mrs. Shinn, you cannot mean that I should bless those who trouble me." I replied, "Indeed, I do. For what you bless loses the power to hurt you. Blessing is the eraser of difficulty." Reluctantly, she began the practice. Each time she felt herself growing tense, each time she wished to respond sharply, she whispered, "I bless this situation, and I walk in divine protection." In a few days, the loud neighbor grew inexplicably friendly. The employer who had criticized her suddenly praised her work. Even her own face seemed softer to her. Nothing outward had changed except the radiation of her inner world. Her walls of Jericho, the walls of fear, resentment, and defensiveness fell flat without a battle. The story of Jericho is not merely historical, it is metaphysical. The Israelites were commanded not to batter the walls, not to push them down by human force, but to walk around them in obedience and trust. They moved in silence. They followed divine instruction rather than human logic, and the walls fell of their own accord. What walls are you marching around in needless alarm? What conditions have you believed must be conquered when they are only waiting for you to cease giving them power? When you resist nothing, you stand in invincible strength. You no longer fight the current, you allow the current to carry you. This is not weakness. It is spiritual mastery. The strongest person is not the one who can shout the loudest or push the hardest, but the one who stands so fully in divine protection that no outer circumstance has the power to disturb their peace. I knew a man who was involved in a long and bitter legal conflict. He rehearsed his grievances daily, reliving old conversations, preparing new arguments, and exhausting himself with imagined debates. He said to me, "I cannot rest until I win this battle." I answered, "The only battle is within. Stop fighting, and life will stop fighting you." I taught him to say, "I stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." At first, he resisted the idea. He believed non-resistance meant surrender to injustice. But non-resistance does not surrender to injustice. It invites divine justice. He released his bitterness. He blessed his adversary. He said the affirmation daily, and something quiet but certain took place. The other party unexpectedly agreed to mediation. The entire matter resolved gently, swiftly, and without the fight he had dreaded for months. Shin. It was as though the whole storm dissolved in a moment. Indeed it had, for storms fed by fear vanish when the wind of trust blows through. Non-resistance does not mean weakness. It means you refuse to enter the vibration of conflict. As long as you stay out of the arena of fear, nothing can touch you. You move above the disturbance. Birds do not flap angrily at storms, they rise above them until the sky grows clear again. So must you. Let us speak of the rope of conflict. Imagine two people pulling at opposite ends of a rope. The harder each person pulls, the greater the tension becomes. But if one person releases their end, the rope falls harmlessly to the ground. In many quarrels and conditions, One party must simply drop their end of the rope. I often tell my students, stop pulling, let the rope fall. The moment you release your grip on resistance, the whole tension collapses of its own weight. A woman once came to me in tears because she feared losing her position at work. She resisted every suggestion, braced for every rumor, armed herself for imagined calamity. Her fear was so great that she could scarcely sleep. I said to her, "You are resisting an enemy that does not exist. Cast the burden and bless your position." She declared, each morning, "I cannot lose what belongs to me by divine right. I do not resist. I trust." Within weeks, the very person she feared would dismiss her became her unexpected advocate. Her position strengthened, not because she fought for it, but because she released the need to fight at all. This is the alchemy of non-resistance. What you fear disappears, what you resent softens, what you push against dissolves. Life does not require your defense, it requires your cooperation. The divine law cannot work in a clenched atmosphere. It needs the open hand, the released heart, the surrendered will. You will also find that others respond differently to you. When you stop resisting, they feel your calmness, they sense your certainty, they instinctively treat you with greater respect. A person who does not fear the world gains a strange authority over it. People trust one who does not stir panic, who does not enter quarrels, who does not push. Such a person becomes magnetic, serene, wise. Assistance flows to them, guidance flows to them, peace flows to them. Now, let me give you a great affirmation for dissolving every wall of resistance. I do not resist. I am divinely protected. All that is mine comes to me with grace and ease. When you face a situation tinged with fear, speak this quietly. You will feel your shoulders loosen, your breath deepen, your mind clear. That moment of release is the moment divine action begins. You need not scale walls or break through barriers. In the spiritual life, walls fall of their own accord when the soul is ready to walk through. Resistance builds the wall higher. Non-resistance brings it down stone by stone. You cannot imagine how simple life becomes when you cease opposing shadows and begin walking in the light. So let the world be as it is. Bless it. Refuse to fight it. Move only in the vibration of peace. And you will discover that the game of life responds generously to the one who refuses to play by fear's rules. Nothing real opposes you. Nothing true resists you. The moment you stop struggling with appearances stop struggling with you. This is the glory of non-resistance. Without a weapon, without a battle, without a shout, the walls fall flat and the way opens before you. My friend, having learned to release struggle and to trust divine timing, you are now ready to understand one of the most delightful laws in the entire game of life, the law of effortless attraction. Many people exhaust themselves trying to gather good from the outside, not knowing that the true magnet is within. You do not achieve abundance by clutching, demanding, or striving. You attract abundance by becoming inwardly aligned with it. Once the inner vibration is right, the outer conditions must follow, for outer experience is but the echo of inner belief. I have often said that man's supply is inexhaustible when he recognizes its spiritual nature. Yet people cling to the belief that money is scarce, difficult, unreliable. They see their purse as a frail object filled with coins that disappear too quickly. But I tell you, your purse is a symbol of your consciousness. If you see it as limited, it will behave accordingly. If you see it as the magic purse of the spirit, Shin, I cannot believe that money can come so easily, I replied. Money is the easiest thing for divine mind to supply, for it is only one form of substance. It is your belief in difficulty that creates difficulty. Let me share the story of a young clerk who worked in a modest shop. His wages were small, and he believed they must remain so. He said to me, "I feel as though my income cannot stretch any further." I answered, "Then it will not. What you feel about your purse is what your purse will feel about you." I taught him the affirmation, "My purse is a magic purse of the spirit. It is always filled and always replenished." He repeated it quietly each morning and each night, not in strain, but in calm certainty. Within a month, his employer raised his salary unexpectedly. He said, "It is as though opportunity found me." I smiled and replied, "It always finds the one who prepares inwardly." You see, money is not attracted to anxiety. It is attracted to confidence. People who feel poor inwardly cannot become rich outwardly, for poverty is a state of mind long before it is a state of affairs. They look at their empty purse and say, "This is all there is," and life confirms their decree. But a person who carries the feeling of plenty, who blesses every coin, who thanks God for every dollar, who speaks of supply rather than lack, sets spiritual law into motion. Their purse may be small, but it behaves as though it contains a hidden spring that continually refills itself. A woman once came to me lamenting that she never had enough. She repeated this phrase daily, "I never have enough money. Something always happens. My income slips away." I said to her firmly, "Madam, you are sending out your poverty like a boomerang, and it returns to you faithfully." She looked startled, for she believed she was merely telling the truth. But when the truth one tells is rooted in fear, it becomes a lie against the divine. I instructed her to replace her old decree with a new one. "I have plenty and plenty to spare. What God has done for others, He now does for me and more." She was diligent. Within weeks, she received unexpected income from a forgotten account and was offered work far better suited to her. She said, "I feel as though I stepped into a new world," and she had, for the world cannot improve until consciousness improves. Let us consider the law itself. Attraction is not force. Attraction is effortless alignment. A magnet does not strain to draw iron. It simply is what it is. And because it is aligned with the nature of iron, the iron comes. In the same way, your good comes when you become magnetized to it through expectancy and faith. If you feel fear, you demagnetize yourself. If you feel lack, you repel what you desire. But if you feel abundant calm, steady, sure good cannot help but arrive. A woman once told me she feared paying her bills. She trembled whenever the mail arrived. Each envelope seemed to shout, "There is not enough." Her fear became so great that she would delay opening the letters for days. I said, "You are treating these envelopes as enemies, when in truth, they are servants of divine law. They give you the opportunity to proclaim abundance." I taught her to hold each bill in her hand and say, "I bless this bill, for God is my unfailing supply." It seemed absurd to her at first, but she obeyed. Within a short time, her income increased in several small but meaningful ways. She said, "My bills no longer frighten me, for every time one appears, the money appears with it." Once she blessed the channel blessed her. Now, let me speak of symbolism, for divine law often hides itself in symbols. When you see your purse as a frail container that must be guarded, you create the consciousness of scarcity. But when you see it as a symbol of unlimited spiritual supply, you create the consciousness of abundance. Some of my students wrote on a small card and placed it within their purse. "My purse is the purse of the Spirit. It can never be emptied. One said to me, Mrs. Shinn. This simple sentence changed my affairs more quickly than anything else. Why? Because it changed the mental image through which her supply had been flowing. Your consciousness always leaks or increases supply according to the thoughts it holds. A cracked vessel cannot hold water, and a consciousness filled with doubt cannot hold prosperity. But when you seal the cracks with faith, everything changes. When you declare, there is no loss in divine mind, you align yourself with an infinite pattern where nothing can truly diminish. What seems lost is restored. What seems wasted is returned. What seems empty is refilled. You will also notice something remarkable. Once you begin to feel abundant inwardly, people respond differently to you. They offer help. They mention opportunities. They treat you as though you are capable, trustworthy, prosperous. They cannot explain why they feel this way, but your calm, prosperous vibration communicates silently. You walk into a room differently. You speak differently. You make decisions differently. Others observe this and say, here is someone on the rise, and life hastens to prove them right. Let me give you one more demonstration. A woman desired a certain sum of money for a necessary purpose. She tried everything: extra work, selling possessions, borrowing. Nothing succeeded. Finally, she surrendered her frantic methods and said, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. She entered what I call the prosperity rest, a state where one ceases all strain and simply expects. Within 24 hours, a long-delayed payment arrived unexpectedly. Her need was met not by effort, but by alignment. This is how the magic purse of the Spirit works. It is not physical. It is not visible. It is consciousness, the true treasury where all supply begins. Fill that treasury with fear, and you draw forth fear. Fill it with faith, and you draw forth abundance. You cannot receive more than your consciousness can contain. But the moment you expand your consciousness, the world expands to match it. My friend, you need not strain another moment for supply. Release the tight grip on your purse, your plans, your expectations. Bless everything that comes and everything that goes. Declare daily, my supply is infinite, for God is my source. And you will find that life listens quickly, quietly, generously. The purse of the Spirit never empties, and you may draw from it as often as you choose. My friend, when a person ceases to struggle and begins to trust the inner leading, something wonderful occurs. The magic path of intuition opens before them. It is not loud. It does not shout nor insist. It whispers, it nudges, it arranges. And because it does not argue, many overlook it. Yet those who follow it walk a path so smooth that others call them fortunate, never realizing that fortune is simply obedience to the still small voice. I have often said that intuition is the voice of the divine design. It knows what you do not know. It sees what you cannot see. It prepares a way long before your feet arrive upon it. But fear is a noisy companion, and it often drowns out intuition's gentle direction. People say, I had a feeling, but they dismiss it because it did not come wrapped in logic or explanation. Yet, intuition never explains, it simply knows. A woman once came to me troubled about a business decision. She said, Mrs. Shinn, I am torn between two choices. One seems sensible, yet something in me hesitates. The other seems impractical, yet it brings me a strange peace. I told her, choose peace. Peace is the compass of the Spirit. She followed the direction that brought peace rather than logic, and within weeks, the impractical path unfolded into an opportunity far greater than she had imagined. The sensible option would have led her into struggle. The intuitive option led her into increase. You see, man's intellect is a lantern, small, flickering, limited, but intuition is the sun. When you rely on intellect alone, you move in circles. When you trust intuition, you move straight toward your good. I have watched people waste years because they insisted on understanding everything before moving. But life does not wait for understanding, it waits for obedience. The moment you obey the inner whisper, doors begin to open. There was a gentleman who desired a new position. He searched, applied, and pressed in every direction, yet nothing responded. "Mrs. Shinn," he said, "I do everything I can, yet all paths are closed." I replied, "Stop doing everything. Do the one thing you are guided to do." He looked puzzled, for he was accustomed to effort. I instructed him to become still and declare, "Infinite Spirit, reveal to me the perfect path. I will follow the magic road of intuition." He obeyed. The next morning, he awoke with a sudden thought, an old acquaintance he had not seen in years. He felt compelled to visit him. As he entered the office, the man exclaimed, "I was just thinking of you. A position opened yesterday, and you are the perfect person." The job was his without struggle, without competition, without delay. Intuition had prepared the way. This is how the magic path works. It does not require you to push through walls. It requires you to walk through open gates. When the Spirit leads, resistance vanishes. Timing adjusts. People appear as though summoned. Opportunities arise without your forcing them. What you once chased now comes toward you, for you have stopped opposing the divine arrangement. I recall another demonstration. A woman desired a home of her own, but believed her funds were insufficient. She searched relentlessly, forcing herself to inspect properties far beyond her liking. She grew weary. Finally, she said, "Mrs. Shinn, I cannot find anything." I answered, "Cease looking. Prepare inwardly, bless the perfect home, and declare, 'I give thanks that my right house is now manifest under grace and in perfect ways.' Then follow your intuition." She stopped searching with strain and began to rest in expectancy. Days later, she felt an odd but persistent desire to walk down a street she had never visited. She said, "I felt almost silly, but I obeyed." As she passed a certain cottage, the owner stepped outside and said, "Are you looking for a home? I am preparing to sell mine." The price was within her means, the terms perfect, the house exactly as she had envisioned. She found it not by force, but by following a whisper. This is the law. Intuition leads to effortless results. Strain leads to confusion. When you strain, you are telling life, "I do not trust you," and life must respond to your distrust. But when you follow intuition, you are telling life, "I trust the divine design. I allow God to arrange the details," and life hastens to comply. There is also a great protection in intuition. It shields you from invisible dangers and unnecessary detours. A woman once intended to travel by train, yet as she prepared to leave, she felt strongly to delay. She could not justify it, but she obeyed. Later she learned the train had been severely delayed by an accident. She said, "Mrs. Shinn, I saved myself hours of trouble by a single inner whisper." Indeed she had, for intuition guards those who listen. Now, let me speak of the downfall of forcing outcomes. Many people believe they must make things happen. They exhaust themselves, arranging, persuading, adjusting, pushing. They say, "If I don't do it, nothing will." Yet this belief stems from fear, and fear is always a poor master. When you try to force life, you fight against the very currents designed to carry you. Forcing comes from the belief that good is scarce and must be seized. Intuition comes from the knowing that good is abundant and will come in perfect timing. Forcing creates delay. Intuition creates flow. I once advised a man who wanted to secure an important client. He pressed, insisted, and nearly begged for the opportunity. Shinn, I feel as though I am pushing against a brick wall. I told him, step back, stop pushing, declare, what is mine cannot be withheld. What is not mine cannot be forced. He obeyed and released his frantic efforts. 2 days later, the client returned to him by his own volition, saying, something told me you were the man for the job. When he stopped trying to seize, he received. This is the paradox of the spirit. You win by ceasing to struggle. You advance by becoming still. You receive by releasing. You succeed by surrendering the personal will and aligning with the divine will. The world calls it strange. The spirit calls it law. Once you begin to follow intuition, others will notice something different about you. They will say, you seem calmer. Things come easily to you. You always know what to do. They will not understand that the ease they observe is the result of obedience to the invisible leading. But you will know. You will feel the inner certainty that accompanies intuitive action. You will sense guidance in the simplest matters. You will say the right thing without rehearsal. You will meet the right person without planning. You will arrive at the right place without effort. This is not accident, it is divine coordination. I often tell my students that intuition is like a lantern carried by the Spirit. It lights only the next few steps, never the entire journey. If you insist on seeing the whole road, you will delay yourself. But if you move faithfully step by step, the road unfolds beautifully. A woman once said, Mrs. Shinn, I cannot trust intuition because I cannot see where it leads. I replied, you do not need to see where it leads, only that it leads. You are not walking alone. Divine design is the perfect pattern for your life, and intuition is its guiding thread. When she began to trust rather than question, her affairs moved swiftly into harmony. The magic path of intuition is the secret to winning without striving. It is the path of least resistance because it is the path of divine arrangement. When you follow it, you cannot fail, for it guides you only to what is yours by divine right. My friend, stop trying to see the whole picture. Stop trying to force the next step. Stop trying to outthink God. Simply say, I am divinely guided. I follow the magic path of intuition. Then listen. Then obey. And you will find that God arranges everything far better than human effort ever could. They try to carry burdens that were never theirs to carry. They shoulder anxieties, responsibilities, fears, and imagined dangers until their spirits grow weary and their paths grow dark. They say, I must solve this. I must fix this. I must think of every possibility. And in doing so, they shut out the very power that could have resolved their affairs with perfect ease. There is a spiritual law that many overlook, yet it is the master key to effortlessness. Cast your burden upon the Christ within and go free. Whenever you take upon yourself the weight of anxiety, you step out of divine order. When you whenever you release it, divine order is restored instantly, for the Spirit can only work when the human mind steps aside. I have seen miracles take place the moment a burden was cast. A woman came to me in great distress. Her financial affairs seemed hopeless. Her voice trembled as she said, Mrs. Shinn, I cannot sleep. I cannot think of anything but my debts. I told her, my dear, you are carrying the burden, not the Spirit. Declare now, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. She repeated it with effort at first, then with growing conviction. A peace descended upon her. Within days, unexpected channels of supply opened. Payments were arranged easily. Help arose unasked. She said, "It is as though the whole world stepped in to assist me." The world will always step in when the Spirit leads. Burdens block the flow of supply. They obstruct intuition. They confuse the mind. But the moment you cast the burden, you place your entire situation in the hands of infinite intelligence, which knows the perfect solution and the perfect sequence. Man knows only a small part of the puzzle. Spirit knows the whole. When you carry the burden yourself, you rely on incomplete information. When you cast it upon the Christ within, you enter the promised land of effortless demonstration. I once advised a gentleman who agonized over a lawsuit. He feared ruin. He rehearsed the case in his mind day and night, imagining every troubling outcome. I said, "You are playing the game of fear, not the game of life. Declare, I cast this burden of the lawsuit upon the Christ within. I go free, and the perfect outcome is established." He did so faithfully. The very next morning, he received notice that the case had been dismissed, due to a change in circumstances no one could have predicted. He said, "It feels as though an invisible hand removed the entire problem overnight." And indeed it had. When you cast the burden, you are not ignoring your affairs. You are elevating them. You are saying, "This matter belongs to divine wisdom, not to human anxiety." And divine wisdom arranges everything with precision. Think of the Israelites marching around the walls of Jericho. They were instructed not to argue, not to force, not to fight with their strength, but simply to obey a spiritual command. When the trumpet sounded and the shout was given, the walls fell without effort. The same is true for the walls in your life. When you try to tear them down yourself, you only bruise your hands. I recall a woman whose relationship had become a tangle of misunderstandings. She tried to explain, to persuade, to correct, yet the more she spoke, the worse the situation grew. In tears, she came to me and said, "Everything I say is taken wrongly." I answered, "Then stop speaking with your lips and begin speaking with the Spirit. Declare, I cast this burden of confusion upon the Christ within. I go free. Divine order is now established in this relationship." She obeyed. She ceased explaining. She ceased defending. She ceased striving. Within a week, harmony was restored as though nothing had ever been amiss. This is the mystery. When you stop trying to fix things, they fix themselves. Not by neglect, but by divine intervention. The Spirit cannot work while human reason insists on controlling every detail. But the moment you release, Spirit acts. Casting the burden is not abandonment. It is cooperation with divine law. You surrender the problem, not the responsibility. You continue to take inspired steps, but you no longer carry the anxiety of outcomes. A man once worried endlessly over a business transaction. He feared loss. He feared betrayal. He feared misfortune. I told him, "You are attracting the very thing you fear by rehearsing it." He replied, "But Mrs. Shinn, if I do not think of the dangers, how will I protect myself?" I said, "Fear is not protection. Divine guidance is protection. Declare, I cast this burden of fear upon the Christ within. I walk in safety, for divine intelligence leads the way." He followed my instruction. In perfect timing, the business partner revealed a hidden intention that would have harmed him. He was able to withdraw safely because he was guided inwardly. Protection came not from fear, but from trust. As you practice casting the burden, you will find a remarkable thing happens. Your face becomes serene, your voice calm, your decisions clear. Others will say, "You seem different, more assured, more confident." They will mistake confidence for self-assurance, not realizing it is divine assurance. You radiate peace because you are no longer straining to control the uncontrollable. Life begins to move smoothly around you because you are no longer resisting it. There is also a great spiritual humor in casting the burden. Often, the very thing one feared reveals itself as nothing at all once placed in the hands of spirit. A woman cried to me that her employer was preparing to dismiss her. She cast the burden faithfully. The next morning, her employer approached her, not to dismiss her, but to promote her. She laughed and said, "I feared the sword, yet it was only a blessing in disguise." This is why I tell my students, when in doubt, cast the burden. When afraid, cast the burden. When confused, cast the burden. There is no situation too large or too small for divine intelligence to arrange. Some say, "Mrs. Shinn, I cast my burden, yet nothing seems to happen." I answer, "Did you cast it, or did you merely speak the words?" To cast a burden is to release it completely. It is to stop rehearsing the problem. It is to lift your mental hands away from it. If you speak the words but continue to worry, you have not cast the burden, you have simply decorated it with new phrases. But if you speak the words in faith, you will feel a lightness, as though something has been lifted. That feeling is the sign that the Spirit has taken charge. The promised land is not a physical place. It is a state of consciousness. It is the inner knowing that God is handling your affairs. When you dwell in that state, you meet everything with calm assurance. Opportunities approach, relationships blossom, finances align. You walk through life with an invisible escort of divine order. I tell you truly, the promised land begins the moment you say, with conviction, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." Once you say those words from the heart, you are no longer the one fighting the battle Spirit fights for you. And when Spirit fights, victory is inevitable. My friend, lay down your burden. Lay down your fear. Lay down your striving. Declare the truth and walk in the light of it. The moment you cast the burden, the way opens. The moment you release the struggle, the solution appears. The moment you trust divine intelligence, the game of life becomes a joyful demonstration of ease, order, and perfect unfolding. My friend, once a seeker has learned to lay down strain, to cast the burden, to walk by intuition, and to expect good at all times, something wondrous begins to take place. Life, which once felt stubborn and unpredictable, now moves in rhythm with your inner command. You no longer chase results. Results come to meet you. You no longer question guidance. Guidance becomes your constant companion. You no longer fear delay. Delay becomes impossible, for divine order cannot be slowed. Many imagine that spiritual victory is dramatic, a lightning bolt, a revelation, a sudden transformation. But true victory comes quietly. It arrives through a shift so gentle that one often does not recognize its depth until others remark upon it. A woman once told me that after practicing the laws I teach, a friend said to her, "You seem different, more settled, more certain, more luminous." She laughed and replied, "I feel as though something inside me has finally sat down." That is effortless victory, the soul seated firmly in truth. When you reach this stage, you no longer wonder whether things will work out. You simply observe how they will do so. You no longer bargain with life. You bless it. You no longer cling to outcomes. You allow divine intelligence to arrange them in ways far beyond your imagination. And you notice, with growing awe, that the more you release, the more you receive. A man came to me once who struggled mightily in business. Every decision felt like a battle, every opportunity a test. But after practicing the law of non-resistance, he said, "Mrs. Shinn, I now feel as though the business is running me, instead of me running it." I answered, "No, my dear, it is being run by divine order through you. For when man ceases to clutch, spirit takes hold. It is at this stage that you begin to recognize the magic path of intuition. This path is not dramatic. It is subtle, like a light breeze turning you gently in the right direction. A seeker once told me, I can no longer bear to push myself. Something within me whispers the next step before I think to ask. That whisper is the watchman at the gate, guiding you to the doors that are already open and away from the ones that are bolted shut. You will also notice that people respond to you differently. They trust you, even without knowing why. They confide in you. They wish to help you. They regard you as one who always seems to know what to do. Though you know the truth, you no longer do anything alone. Divine intelligence has become your silent partner, your unseen advocate, your perfect guide. One woman told me that since practicing these teachings, strangers began treating her with unusual kindness. Shopkeepers offered her the best items. Crowds parted to let her pass. She said, "It feels as though the world has put out a welcome mat." And I answered, "Indeed, it has. For the world mirrors the state of consciousness you carry. When the inner kingdom is in order, the outer world salutes you." The law of non-resistance plays a great part here. For the one who has ceased striving is as light as a feather in the hands of spirit. They are carried where they must go. They meet whom they must meet. Their timing is perfect, not through calculation but through alignment. They move through life with an invisible escort, and all crooked places are made straight before them. This does not mean you will never face challenges. It means challenges will no longer disturb your inner climate. You will say, "This too is part of divine design," and the challenge will dissolve more quickly for your refusal to fear it. Fear is the only glue that holds a problem in place. Remove the fear, and the problem loses its form. You will find that inspired action replaces frantic action. Instead of 10 unnecessary steps, you will take one perfect one. Instead of forcing outcomes, you will declare, "What is mine comes to me with ease, and what is yours will indeed appear without crowding, without confusion, without delay." Let me give you an example. A young woman desired a new position but feared competition. She said, "Mrs. Shinn, there are many applicants more qualified than I." I told her, "There is no competition on the spiritual plane. What is for you cannot be taken from you. Declare, 'I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way, and it comes to me now.'" She did so faithfully. Within a fortnight, the position was hers. The employer said, "Something about you stood out." That something was confidence born of alignment. As you grow in effortless victory, speech becomes a tool of precision. You do not speak idly, for you understand that every word carries a seed. You no longer say, "Things never work for me," for you know such decrees return, like boomerangs. Instead, you say, "Everything is working for my good, and life hastens to obey." A gentleman once told me, "I used to speak carelessly. Now I feel as though my words are soldiers marching out to arrange my affairs." I said, "Indeed they are. Words are your invisible servants. Send them forth only on errands of good." And he did. His affairs prospered. One of the greatest signs that you have entered effortless victory is this. You stop rushing. You move deliberately. You trust divine timing. You no longer fear being too late, for you know that what is truly yours cannot be early or late. It arrives at the appointed hour. To run ahead of divine timing is to find the door still closed. To lag behind it is to miss the escort. But to walk with it is to find the path already prepared. Another sign is that peace becomes your natural state. The old restlessness fades. Doubt has no foothold. You feel carried. You feel anchored. You feel guided, not through visions or dramatic signs, but through a deep inner certainty that all is well and all is unfolding under grace in perfect ways. You may even find humor returning to your life. Holy humor, the recognition that Spirit has been arranging your affairs all along while you fretted unnecessarily. A woman once said to me, "Mrs. Shinn, I feel embarrassed by how hard I used to try." I smiled and said, "My dear, the kingdom of heaven is not taken by effort but by understanding. And so, as you enter this final stage, you become a living example of divine design. You walk in beauty, you walk in assurance, you walk in a peace that cannot be shaken by appearances. Those around you will feel the change. They will wonder why your affairs prosper, why your relationships smooth out, why your path unfolds as though someone invisible is clearing the way. And indeed, someone is. You have stopped trying so hard and yet you win. You win because you have ceased fighting the currents designed to carry you. You win because you have partnered with the invisible forces that govern all form. You win because you have recognized that the game of life is not conquered by will, but by alignment with divine law. When you reach this place, you can truly declare, "I rest in divine order, and divine order brings everything to pass. I do not strive, I allow. I do not fear, I trust. I do not force, I follow the magic path of intuition. And because I trust, everything unfolds in perfect ways." My friend, effortless victory is not a secret. It is a law, and once learned, it carries you forward as naturally as the tide carries a ship. Life becomes not a contest, but a cooperation, not a struggle, but a song, not a battle, but a blessing. And the blessing is already on its way to you now.